Hi, friend. I want to be the first one to welcome you and congratulate you for being on this page, for being in this program. Because as a parent of four girls myself, two of whom have been through their teenage years already, and two of them are coming up on their teenage years, I can tell you that, it is difficult. It is difficult for various reasons, including our personal lives. It can get very, very difficult because as parents, we don't know everything, and we're also trying to figure things out, and we're trying to figure our own lives out, career, the economy, and then our teenagers just don't seem to behave in the logical way that we think they should behave in, right? So I know it is frustrating, and I know that this can consume a whole lot of energy from your life. So I'm going to make this really brief and as useful as I possibly can so that we can improve this relationship and make these troubles go away. Whenever I work with any kind of relationship issue, I'd like to ask people to remind themselves of how that relationship started. Now, when it comes to teenagers, in some cases they don't look very gracious. They look a little bit disorganized. That's in some cases, and it's difficult to see them as a little lovey-dovey thing in some cases. But for most of us, when we had our babies, it was a loving situation. And I say this with all due respect to some people for whom the experience of pregnancy and having a baby may not have been positive. I've been working this job for 25 years. I've worked with over 12,000 people. So I have pretty much seen all kinds of situations out there. And I do realize that in some cases, this is not something that we typically want to talk about with our children, but I do know that in some cases, the pregnancy was very difficult for various reasons. Let's just leave it at that for now. And but that's not the majority of the cases. Oftentimes, people are really happy. Oh, we got pregnant. We're expecting a baby. It's going to be perfect. I'm going to, correct all of my parents' mistakes on my children. My children are going to grow up perfect, and this and that and the other. And you can see, parents of one first child, they're very zealous and they take care of their children. But as the years go by, things sometimes can get a little bit difficult and, frankly, out of control, out of hand. The first thing that I'd like to ask you to do is to think back about how this relationship with your child started in the very beginning. And if you find that it was negative somehow for you personally, you don't have to tell anybody this because I know it can be uncomfortable. But if you find that the beginning of your relationship with your child was difficult, let's see if we can do some forgiveness exercises. For some of you, that's not the case. That's why I'm not going to emphasize that part of it too much. But if you know that in your case, the pregnancy, the birth, was not a happy occasion for you, then we have to start there. We have to clean up those memories. And we do that through forgiveness, through relaxation, meditation. There are a number of techniques that we can use. I'll be more than happy to help you if you have difficulty with that part of it. So you can certainly click on the link, let me know, send me an email, and I'll be more than happy to help with that part of it if you find that that's a challenge for you. But again, for most people, statistically speaking, at least, I don't know your situation in particular, that was not the case. Being pregnant was a happy occasion. So then what I'd like to ask you is to imagine this. What plans or what ideas or what dreams did you have for your child when it was first conceived and when he or she came into the world and all of this? Didn't you have a bunch of plans and dreams? My boy is going to be awesome. My girl is going to be beautiful. Whatever ideas you had, weren't they all great ideas? This is going to be really awesome. They're going to grow up perfectly healthy, this, that, and the other. We had a lot of good ideas for our children, and somehow or another, it didn't quite work out that way, right? But there's one thing that we can do right now, and that is to begin imagining what it would be like if things were more according to what you would love. You see, the first question I would like to suggest you ask yourself is, what would I love in relation to my relationship with my teenager? And I'm going to use this in the singular, recognizing fully that you may have more than one teenager at the same time, but it applies to the in the plural as well. So what kind of relationship would you love to have with your teenager? What would you like your home to be like? And I'm not talking about like the house, the building, how big is the house, that kind of thing. Although that is a part of life as well. But I'm more talking about like the home environment. What sort of relationships would you like to have in your home, in your family? How would you like your teenagers to see you? Would you like for them to come to you when they feel troubled? Would you like them to be completely independent and never need you? How would you love this to be? And what's really awesome is that most of us get so bogged down with what is happening today that we stopped taking the time to plan and dream. That's why I started off talking about when you first conceived your child. There were a lot of dreaming going on back then. Oh, we're going to do this, we're going to travel here, we're going to do that. A lot of dreaming was going on at that time. If you can think back to that period of your life, there was a whole lot of dreaming and imagination going on. And then because of the stress of daily living, the economy, this, that, and the other, the marriage, the relationship, we begin to forget to dream. And when a person comes into the office and they tell me they're having all kinds of problems at home, and I ask them, okay, what sort of life would you love to live? What sort of home would you love to have with your teens? People at that stage of the process have a hard time dreaming. They no longer know. They say, "Oh, no, don't you get it? I just want this to be okay. I just want the problem to go away." Or what problem? In other words, their minds have become problem focused. In other words, when I say to you that I want this problem to go away, the focus of my attention is on the problem. When I tell you I want this to be gorgeous, beautiful, I want it to be covered in gold, I'm describing the way I want it to be, right? But if I tell you, well, I don't want this to be ugly and bad, the reference, the focus of my attention is still on what I do not want. Yesterday in a session, I was talking to a man and he was having a hard time comprehending that difference. So I gave him the example. I asked him to hear me out and asked him if he thought it amounted to the same thing when I said, I do not want to be poor versus I want to be wealthy. And I had to repeat those two phrases to him a few times, 2 or 3 times, and he was paying attention. And at first, not being poor equals being wealthy. But then after he heard it a few times, he realized that there is a difference between saying, I do not want to be poor versus I do want to be wealthy. In other words, the focus of our attention is on what we want as opposed to what we do not want. And now this might seem like a small thing to you, and you might say, is that going to get my teenager off of drugs? Well, it is the very beginning of getting what we want, and it starts with a dream. That is the first step. That is the first step. So I want to show you more about how this works. I want to tell you a whole lot more. What do you say? Because look, I've been there, and I can tell you, you can have this, you can do this. At the office, I've seen thousands of people. Oftentimes a parent would call me up and say, my son, my daughter is having this or that problem. I would talk to the parents, I would work with the parents, and in many cases, I never even saw the teenager, and the problem would go away. And it isn't to say that the problem was the parents' fault, but it is to say that when we as parents change, the teenager tends to change as well. There are exceptions, and in some cases I did work with the teen, but a lot of times I didn't, and the problem still went away. So this the first step, of course, is to begin to dream about what we want as opposed to focus on what we do not want. That is the first step. And if this first step begins to make sense to you, let me show you way more steps. Let me show you how we're actually going to create the life you love. And all you have to do is put your name down here and I'll tell you more. But I'd like to be acquainted with you. I'd like to know who I'm speaking with, and I'd like to make this conversation more personal. Once again, my name is Flavio. You know me already because you're watching me. I'd like to know something about you. So so that we can have a better dialogue, more of a two-way dialogue. And I would love to hear what you have to say and what kinds of problems you are facing. But I can tell you that after 25 years doing this, I probably have seen most, if not all, types of different problems that a family can have, and they all respond to a particular type of solution that always works. And that type of solution is getting in touch with a part of ourselves that is the solution as opposed to the problem. There's a part of us that is the solution. And that's what I help people do, to get in touch with that part of themselves that is the solution. So a lot of this, when I explain this very briefly, can seem very abstract. It can seem very, very abstract and almost impossible. And to some of you, it may not even make any sense. But give me an opportunity, because what's at stake here is the peacefulness and the integrity of your home. I can tell you that I have helped thousands of other people have an awesome family life, and I know I can help you. But I also know that we're going to have to parse this out a little bit better. I'm going to have to explain this to you step by step. So let's go one step at a time. Let's become acquainted. Put your name below. Let me meet you. Let's meet. At least let me have your name, and then we'll go from there. All right. So, and I'll share with you other steps, and you're going to love this. Blessings to all of you.